Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today I thought we'd talk about some spring reads. We are right on the cusp of getting into spring, and I thought why not go over some books that have a little bit of that spring vibe to them. Now I haven't read all of these. Some of them I have read, some of them I haven't, but all of them as I was selecting them, they either open up or take place partially or fully during the springtime, or they have some kind of spring feel to them, like flowers or different things that make you think of this season. First, we'll start with a couple of books by Pepper Basham, and we have Authentically Izzy. Now, this one starts on Valentine's Day, I believe, but then it quickly kind of moves forward into March, April, and so on from there. So there's quite a bit of it that does take place during the spring. And it's just such a cute romance and fits perfectly in this season. Now, I have read this and I really enjoyed it, and I love the way that the story unfolds because it's through a lot of long distance back and forth communication between the two main characters and how they get to know each other through that communication and then eventually are able to meet in person. So they go through quite the journey and it is a very fun time. Then we also have Sense and Suitability. Now I have not read this one yet, but it's on my TBR for March, so I'm hoping to read it this month. This one just looks so very spring. I mean, look at all the flowers and everything on the cover. It just fits the spring vibe so completely that I couldn't not include it in this list. Next we have The Butterfly and the Violin by Christy Cambrone. Now I don't know that this one actually takes place during the spring, but it has butterflies on it. It has butterfly in the title, and what is more spring feeling than a butterfly? So I thought this one might be a fun one to pull into this spring reads list. On the back it says, a mysterious painting breathes hope and beauty into the darkest corners of Auschwitz and the loneliest hearts of Manhattan. Manhattan art dealer Sarah James watched her world crumble at the altar 2 years ago, and her heart is still fragile. Her desire for distraction reignites a passion for a mysterious portrait she first saw as a young girl, a painting of a young violinist with piercing blue eyes. In her search for the painting, Sarah crosses paths with William Hanover, the grandson of a wealthy California real estate mogul, who may be the key to uncovering the hidden masterpiece. Together, Sarah and William slowly unravel the story behind the painting's subject, Austrian violinist Adele von Brunn. A darling of the Austrian aristocracy of 1942, talented violinist and daughter to a high-ranking member of the Third Reich, Adele risks everything when she begins smuggling Jews out of Vienna. In a heartbeat, her life of prosperity and privilege dissolves into a world of starvation and barbed wire. As Sarah untangles the secrets behind the painting, she finds beauty in the most unlikely of places, the grim camps of Auschwitz and the inner recesses of her own troubled heart. So this looks like a really, really good historical fiction and maybe the perfect pick for a spring read. The next one is Beyond Ivy Walls by Rachel Fordham. And this says, reminiscent of Beauty and the Beast, a recluse and a young woman discover that the scars of life are no match against an act of love. So this looks really neat, a historical fiction with a little bit of Beauty and the Beast vibes. And just looking at the cover, this building is completely covered with flowers and ivy, and it just makes you think of spring. So I think this would be a really fun one to read for springtime. Another one is Not by Sight by Kate Breslin, and this one takes place during the spring. It actually says, in the spring of 1917, all of Britain's attention is on the World War I war front and the thousands of young men serving their country on the front lines. So definitely it takes place during the springtime. So one of the ones I talked about earlier was during World War II. This one is during World War I. And this is a really fun book. I have read this one and I really enjoyed it. I liked the romance. I really liked the two main characters. And there was a lot of things that happened in this that things weren't necessarily as they appeared on the surface. And the two main characters have to sift through all of that and find out the impulses by which each of them are actually operating. It takes them a while to really uncover the truth behind some of the things that are happening on both their parts. But it is such a good story, and there are a lot of really great quotes in here. The next one is Garden of Midnights by Hannah Linder. Now, I selected this one because it has garden in the title. Again, very much a springtime vibe. This one says on the back, she begged him once more to meet in the garden at midnight. If you love me, said the letter. But if he loved her, he would not come at all. So this one looks really intriguing. I have not read this one yet, but it looks very good, and maybe I'll be able to fit it in at some point this spring. The next one I have is Night Falls on Predicament Avenue by Jamie Jo Wright, and this one actually opens up in May, so definitely during the springtime. I absolutely love Jamie Jo Wright's books. They are always super intriguing because you get a dual timeline. One portion of the story takes place during current times and the other during a historical time period, and it's always really intriguing to see how Jamie Jo is going to wrap those up together and the impact that each of those storylines has on the other. This one says on the back, as the walls of the house at Predicament Avenue reveal their hidden truths, two women, generations apart, discover that fear and foreboding are no respecters of time. Definitely intriguing. I haven't read this one yet, but it is very much high on my list. It's one of the books that I really want to read in 2026. Maybe I'll be able to read it in May, which is the month that it opens up. So that would be really fun. Next, I have Karen Whitmire's new release, which is Taming Lady Temperance. I've heard nothing but good things about this book. It opens up in April, so definitely during the spring months. Karen Whitmire's books are always so much fun. I love the settings, I love the characters, and there's usually always quite a bit of humor in them. So looking forward to reading this one for sure. It says, when passion for justice conflicts with the heart, which will prevail? So looks like another good time. Excited to dive into this, and probably a perfect spring read. Next is Dreams and Dragon Wings by Ashley Willingham, and I chose this one because of all the flowers on the cover. It just looks like spring, and it is a fairy tale retelling of Sleeping Beauty, and one of the main characters happens to be a dragon. And this one says, destined to be together, cursed to be apart. So I'm excited to read this. I have been wanting to read it for some time and just have not been able to do that yet. But maybe the spring will work for this and I can have this as one of my own spring reads. Another one that I chose because of the flowers on the cover is Maiden of Candlelight and Lotuses, and this is by Anastasis Blythe. And I don't know for sure, but it looks kind of like there's cherry blossoms or at least a similar flower on the cover. And this one says, dreams of magic and romance have no place in the heart of a poor farm girl until the day she becomes a student at the dangerously competitive academy. So she ends up going from a farm to a magic academy and being pulled into all kinds of intrigue and danger along the way. Next we have A Lesson in Propriety by Jen Turano. And from what I can tell, this one largely takes place in the month of May. So we got another May read. I think it opens up a little earlier in the year, but then it pretty quickly moves into the springtime. But this looks really good. I've heard great things about it. I've heard there's a lot of humor and that it's a really fun story. And on the back it says, Lesson 1. Stand in the way of the Windy City's criminal world and expect a most improper proposal from an eligible gentleman in return. So I'm excited to see what happens in this. Sounds like mystery and intrigue, and also just probably a bit of comedy and some fun romance. A series that I don't actually have that has a very spring feel to it is the Heartland Homecoming series by Irene Hannon. Now these books look really fun. They all are very vibrant with lots of flowers and that springtime vibe for sure. The first one is From This Day Forward, and it says, they thought their marriage was over, but can forgiveness open the door to a new future? The second one is A Dream to Share, and the tagline for that one says, her family legacy is at stake. Will the new man in town save it or destroy it? And finally, there's Where Love Abides. And this one says, she's been wronged and she's hurting. Can he help her wipe the slate clean and escape her past? All three of these books are fairly short. I think they're all just a little over 200 pages, so they're pretty quick reads, but they look really good and definitely have that springtime flair. And of course, I have to mention The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I mean, you can't think of that classic without thinking of springtime and new beginnings and new growth and happiness. It's definitely a perfect fit for spring. And last, I have a couple of books by Jody Headland. One of them is a little more fantasy based, and I chose it because, again, it looks like very spring on the cover, and that is Evermore, and this is the first book in the Lost Princesses series. And this one says, an ancient key, a secret treasure, and a princess destined to use them both to fight evil and restore peace. I've read the prequel to this series and it was really good, and this is a series that I'm hoping to read in 2026. So I'm looking forward to this. and maybe I can read this first one in spring. It's kind of distressing because there's a lot of books that I want to read that I'm going through today in this video, and it's making me want to read all of them right now, and there's no way to possibly do that, but that's okay. Maybe I can fit a few in. And last we have Come Back to Me, which is the first in the Waters of Time series, and this one opens up about mid to late May, which is also a spring time frame for us. Now this one is kind of like a time slip fantasy where we have a character in current times that ends up being pulled into the past where there are knights and all that kind of fun stuff. So I'm excited to read this series because it's got that kind of medieval little bit of fantasy crossover feel to it. There are quite a few books that I've gone through in this video that I can't wait to read myself, and I'm looking forward to diving into those. I hope I can read some of those in spring because they definitely very much fit this season. But that is it. I hope this video gives you some ideas for some springtime reads to add to your list for this season. If you have any other ideas of springtime reads, I would love it if you would drop those in the comments below so that myself and other people watching can see those recommendations. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate you all so very much. And as always, remember to keep following your dreams and believing in the magic of this thing called life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.